Hey there, everybody. Drew here, the Gnostic Wizards Forest channel. And, thanks for being with us. Just, you know, wanted to say this. It's a wild ride sometimes right now. I get it. But I talk about this quite often. During the birthing process, it's not always easy. There's some challenges. And we're definitely seeing that birthing process right now. It's part of the ascension. It's part of the journey. It's part of growing into being better people, being better spirits, being better stewards. And just real quick, a little bit about this channel. So, we don't get into a lot of the typical traditional or normal Gnostic information. It's Gnostic as in Gnosis, Greek word for divine wisdom, divine knowledge, understanding. Well, divine wisdom is more of the Sophia terminology, which we'll get into, right? Pistis Sophia. Wonderful character and goddess or Aeon, creator, or creatress, right? One of the maternal creator beings. But why it's Gnosis, Gnostic wizard, is because we believe it. Gnosis is not just for Christians after the great teacher, the Logos, came and taught. And a lot of these stories, they're stories. A lot of these writings, teachings that were from Thomas and Philip and the Apocryphon of John, and all of these books were people like you and me writing things down in a spiritual manner of spiritual things that were kind of far out. They were kind of out there at the time. So we're just speaking of radical spiritual teachings and messages. We're not just hyper fixated on the pseudo Greek after church of Yeshua or the Logos. We're looking at it. You guys really think that the Logos was just one person, one being at one specific time frame, and that's it? That's a little closed minded, in my opinion. What do you guys think about that? So, a lot of these characters I've looked at, I've researched into the Sumerians, Mesopotamians, the Slavic people, the Turkic people, the Golden Horde, the Tartarians, the Hopi, the Yaqui, the Yoeme. If you look at all of these names of these groups of people, of these indigenous tribes and villages and societies, most of them just call each other and themselves the people of this region. Who were the druids? They were just people trying to live in harmony, trying to live like Creator intended for us to live. Othur, why I say Othur, because the frenzied one, I believe Othur was one of the Logos. Prove me wrong if you don't think I'm right. I'd love to hear your input. I'm not. You could tell by the comments and what we talk about. I'm not very close-minded. I'm not. You said it wrong. I'm so mad at you. That's not this channel. We talk about some information. We're going to get more scholarly, but we're not, if you want serious, real serious scholarly information, there's others out there, right? Like Esoterica, for example. Great guy. I'm spacing on his name at the moment, but Dr. Sledge, I think. Justin. Great channel. Gets into the exact texts, and we're going to get into some of them as well. But we're going to put off a little bit of different interpretation on a lot of these texts. We're going to put it into the now, into the present, not. We need to understand them to a certain aspect, but we need to understand them in the now and how they apply to us, how we can integrate this information And specifically, I'm Scandinavian, Nordic, right? You can, and Polish. And I'll get into my family's stories, but my dad is related to Thorvaldsson, Eric Thorvaldsson, Leif, right? Sigurd, these great Vikings of old. And Viking is just a fancy term, like it's not fancy, but it's just a term for a sea traveling person of a certain time frame. Just the sea people, right? Same thing like the Phoenicians and these other people. They traveled on boats. They traded. There's settlements in the east coast of Vikings way before Christopher Columbus. The Native Americans talk about Pahana, the long lost white brother who's redheaded and matches Thorvaldsson's description or some of Thorvaldsson's family. Okay. So, why I talk a little bit about Othur, Odin, and Viking information is because they're not isolated. There's no separation in what we're talking about. Everything's interconnected. Everything is synchronicities. Everything is together. There's some dualistic aspects, but overall we're all singularities of the wavelength. So sometimes we might talk a little bit about the different singularities to help us understand the wave better. And so I speak a little bit about Gnosis, Gnostic information. I'm going to talk about more Gnostic information. I know I haven't very much yet. But yeah, we definitely are going to get into it. But real quick right now, there's 4 billion ish people involved in Abrahamic religions, Abrahamic systems, which some of the Gnostic is kind of loosely attached with the Abrahamic information, right? The Old Testament, the New Testament. But Gnostic is more of the Nag Hammadi library, Nag Hammadi codexes, which once again are writings by people like you and me who have information from beyond a lot of people's comprehension, beyond a lot of normal status quo general beliefs, right? They were more heretical or um, a little bit more conspiratorial, right? They did not go with the current status quo of the Romans and the Council of Nicaea and Irenaeus. I do understand about that stuff too, right? Where I appreciate Valentine and the Valentinian and the Sethian belief systems, right? But we're going to take it a lot further. We're going to have some interconnections going on. Yahweh, right, was spoken a lot about in the Old Testament texts. Like when it says, the Lord thy God, it actually is saying, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time it's saying the Lord thy God is actually Jehovah Elohim or Yahweh Elohim. Jehovah. They switched the Y's and the J's at a certain period of time. They actually didn't even have vowels at a certain point of time, right? It was like YH, VH for the tetragrammaton, right? Which is very interesting. Elohim is plural. Interesting. Elohim is plural. So when it says Yahweh Elohim, it's almost like a name of somebody from a certain family. So it's like Yahweh of the archons or Jehovah of the Aeons in a certain context. So we're going to get back into this good old patriarchal figure, Abraham. We have to ask the question, not just have blind faith about this. If we want to have Gnosis, blind faith is not going to be the key at all. It's going to be seeking it out. And the great Logos, the great teacher, said in all things seek wisdom, not blind lead the blind. Okay. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, but I was a Baptist youth pastor and preacher for a while and went, I'm kind of, might be on the spectrum. That's okay. It might be a little neurodivergent, a little weird. If you haven't caught on to that yet, we'll, we'll go there. We'll get there. But I went through combed through it all, got into the etymology and the root language of the entire Bible and went far as I could and started looking into some of the Ethiopian texts. And then I started having some serious questions. Who is Abraham? Where did he come from? So it talks about him in Genesis 14, right, 18 through 20. There's many different passages I have about Abraham and Melchizedek. Very important figure, right? So if in the New Testament, Melchizedek is the priesthood of the Savior, of the Logos, of the great teacher, when the Pharisees and scribes, the rabbis, of the Hebrews, right? They questioned Yeshua, the Logos, the anointed one. Hey, Yeshua, how do you have this authority to do what you're doing? I don't know the exact scripture memorized by heart. Paraphrasing here. Could definitely look it up. But he said, I'm of a Melchizedek. I'm not of Aaron. I'm of Melchizedek, and I am the high priest of the order of Melchizedek forever. Amen. That's it. Done. And so then we need to look at Melchizedek. So in doing a search of Melchizedek, he's mentioned like 3 times, right? Kind of, and maybe like kind of off referenced like 2 other times. So like less than 5 times in the entire biblical canon. But the Logos has his priesthood from Melchizedek. This is interesting. Why it seems like they hid it to me, right? This is what I'm getting at. Let's just cut to the chase. It seems like they hid Melchizedek. They don't really want us to know much about Melchizedek. And the Mormons go kind of deep into Melchizedek. They have the Melchizedek priesthood, and they're the ones that can do different rituals or services, etc. Certain power, whatever we want to call it. But Abraham comes from a foreign land. He's crusading. Let's be honest. Let's get real here. He is taking over land in the Middle East. He's from Sumeria. I'm not going to make you guys guess anymore. He's from Sumeria. He's Babylonian. His family potentially is, offsprings of Gilgamesh or whoever. If you guys haven't got into the Sumerian texts yet, I highly recommend it. There's the Epic of Gilgamesh, the story of Atrahasis, there's the Enuma Elish, there's the King's List, lots of fascinating stuff, and we'll get into that as well, because it's, in my opinion, a little bit important. It helps bridge a few inconsistencies. So Abraham did not know the Torah. He did not know the Pentateuch. He did not know the Nag Hammadi. He didn't know any of this stuff. What did Abraham know? What was he taught as a child? Who was he crusading for? What gods did he worship? These are very important questions, in my opinion. It was the sons of Anuna, right? So the Enuma Elish, he knew the Epic of Gilgamesh, the story of Atrahasis. He did not know Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, etc. Apocryphon of John, Philip, Thomas, Sophia, Book of Mary. He didn't know any of this. So he's crusading for the Sumerians and Babylonians, taking over land, and he stops at Salem, 2000-ish BC, give or take. He went from east to west, to Salem. So you can look it up. Salem is there. It's also called Urushalem or Urushalem. It was a subgroup, sub-city. It was under the Egyptian governance, even. That's weird, right? And who were the people there at the time in Salem? It was not the Shmishmirites. Can't say it anymore on YouTube. They took it over. It's real controversial. I get it. Get shadow banned and all that. That doesn't make sense. It's freaking ridiculous. Compromisation of our holy, sacred, unalienable rights that we can't talk about stuff. It's very, I don't get that right now. Frustrates me a little bit, but so who was in Salem? Who were the people of Melchizedek? Melchizedek literally is a translation to righteous ruler, or in my opinion, and some other connotations, is divine shepherd king. He did not rule with an iron fist. He ruled with love and balance and harmony. So this is the priesthood of the Logos, of Yeshua, the Anointed One. This is the one of the beginning priests. Some people even say, "Oh, it was Yeshua." Okay, well, if it was Yeshua, was he misleading all these people? He misled all these people, right? No, not at all. Who are the people there? In 2000 BC, they were Semites, Semitic people. Potentially Phoenicians, right? But Phoenicians oftentimes are considered a little bit more north of Salem. So they were a combination. They were a collaborative group of people. They weren't just one people and that's it, and you can only be this person and this type of people and you have to get out. Just like Galatia. We'll get into that with the Celts. Gaul, where we get Portugal. It was a religion. It was a belief system. It wasn't like you had to be white and red hair and have a certain amount of braids and worship a certain god. And no, it was your beliefs in harmony with others in the land. It's this indigenous belief system. That's why we talk both about Gnostic information and the wizard stuff, right? Where the wizards are technically, more of the Viking, druidic, Scandinavian, old Germanic, Proto-Germanic, Pi groups, Proto-Indo-European groups. Wizards are more associated with that type, right? Middle Ages and Renaissance periods, all that, right? And then the Gnosis. So that's, the combination of the two, right? We're kind of being the bridge. That's what we're here to do. We're here to be bridges. We're here to be teachers and help connect the dots back home. So Abraham goes to Melchizedek. He stops his conquering, which is a big deal. He stops his conquering. He stops doing all his crazy stuff. And he gives him a tenth of all of his belongings. All of the land he conquered, everything. That's where people get tithing from even. So why are we tithing when this Melchizedek is evil? There's a lot of inconsistencies. So either Abraham is bad and Melchizedek is bad, or let's just, agree to disagree kind of thing. Both of them are good for right now. I don't know about that, and people have free will. We can change. We can follow the Aeons, which is inside of us. We have both the archons and the Aeons, the good and the bad inside of us all. And it's a choice whether to unlock the higher ascending higher realm, right? 8th, 9th realm, the pleroma, as spoken about in Gnostic texts, the divine fullness, the divine oneness with source, the primordial darkness, blackness. In some of the Old Testament Hebrew texts is called Sheol. In the New Testament, Gehenna was spoken about by Yeshua, the Logos. But Gehenna was just a burning trash pile. Not once is hell mentioned in the entire Bible at all. Where did we get hell from? This is wizard stuff here. Helheim, the goddess Hel. Whenever we say hell as a Christian we're talking about a pagan goddess of the underrealms, of the realms of fire. It's kind of silly. Sheol is just like eternal rest. This is weird. It seems like there's been some serious adulteration and manipulation and deception by a large group of people that want to take people's energy and make them do certain things for the name of God. Go conquer all these people and kill them all because they're not believing in the same God as you. The frick? Okay, weird. And the Vikings, once again, they didn't just go, I'm going to kill everyone in villages. They're there and I want their gold and their women and ooga booga. No, that's the Catholic interpretation. And the Catholics never did that. The Catholics never killed a bunch of people for no reason. It was God. They were worshiping God, and God told them to go kill all those people. Sick. I looked up the story of Eric Thorvaldsson, and he did not put people's heads on pikes. He put authoritarian, psychopathic crusaders on pikes to say, get away from our village. Leave our people alone. And at a certain point, he fled. Because he's like, probably Spirit told him, like, hey, you've lost enough people. They're going to wipe you guys out because there's so many of them. It doesn't make sense anymore. Okay, so if he's so savage, he's so evil and bloodlust, why did he flee? Why did he take as many people as he could and that would and take off? Right? There's a beautiful other story of one of my favorites, Little Wolf. Man, what a beautiful story. And he did the same thing. It's like 300, the movie, but in Native American, we'll talk about that one. But so very interesting. Melchizedek accepts the offering from Abraham, getting back into it, and they have peace, and Melchizedek says, like, this is, king of the Most High. So who's the Most High to Abraham? Right? If you look at all of the gods of the Enuma Elish, they match up with the Semites. And Yahweh is in there. And Asherah too. Interesting. They have this male-female combination back then. And Yahweh got taken later on by cousins. They're all family, right? Because if we're going off the Utnapishtim, Atrahasis is the story of Noah, like 2,000 plus years before Noah ever even got talked about. Appropriation much? Right? You guys get that yet? Okay. So in the stories of Noah, Utnapishtim, Atrahasis, there's three brothers, basically. This is the easiest story for us all to understand. And they were all friends. They all got along for the most part. Every now and then one tried to dominate another, which, right, go figure. Your land is greener than mine. I haven't been taking care of it. I'm going to take yours and, screw you. Happens a lot. Your car's nicer. I'm going to steal it, right? So Abraham and Melchizedek, they go their ways. They do their thing. So we need to look into Melchizedek a little bit more. And the people of Melchizedek. And the Phoenicians went all over the place. I'm glad someone brought them up. They were the purple dye people. The people of the Phoenix is actually what Phoenicians loosely translates to, is the people of the Phoenix. And so the people of the Phoenix and the Semites, the Semitic people, were a harmonious, collaborative group of people. Mix of Egyptian and Sumerian and Assyrian and Turkey and, right, everyone. But so in the Noah story, Shem goes east, Ham goes south, and Japheth goes north. Japheth is the, more redhead, typical, characteristics are typical that of the redheaded, blonde, more Germanic people, and they go up the steppes and, into the Balkan Mountains and Romania and Serbia and Poland and, go up that way. But some of them went down too. And you can see that. There's records of pharaohs being truly redheaded. Okay. Weird. So it's like Salem's like a melting pot, and Salem means the city of peace before Jerusalem was ever around. So this is, again, appropriation. So to me, it seems that Abraham may have gotten some trade going on with this area for his kings and rulers and etc. And then, slowly, Grand Canyon, right? Just trickle of that river, slowly breaking it down. So to me, Melchizedek is very interesting, very important. But to me, there's something serious going on here. And in the Semitic texts and the Ugaritic texts and the Enuma Elish, the whole entire region believed similar characteristics of gods. So just because the name changes doesn't mean their characteristics change much. Othur, Odin, was son of Jotun. The Jotun were primordial, untamable chaos type beings. It kind of sounds like the archons and aeons. Zeus for the Greeks. Olympians. Zeus's parents were actually Olympians, or Titans. He was an Olympian. So same story, right? And thunder, lightning, good and bad characteristics potentially. Gave birth to the sun. The sun helped create balance through unconditional and interesting heroes' journeys. Same thing with Gilgamesh. It's repetitive, it's cyclical. But a lot of people try to separate everything out and isolate everything out, and they're actually not that separate. They're just, it's like calling a rose a different language, right? Like rosa, just giving an example. But just because one person calls a rose rosa and one calls the rose rose, like, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm saying rose. That doesn't make any sense. They're both the same. Oh no, here's the rose. Like, the rose still looks like a rose. Still has the smell of a rose. Everything is the same. So even in Melchizedek in the Semites, there's the Elohim. It's Ilhm. And in the, Hebrew and that type, it's Elohim. In plural, again. Very, very strange. All right, so yeah. We need to ask, what are the beliefs of these people? What are the characteristics of these people? What are their similarities? Compare and contrast these gods and goddesses. Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. And I don't think that we should just be hyperfixating on one group of gods or group of texts. We're going to get narrow information. So, you look at the Egyptians and what did they say about Salem? You look at these people, what did they say about this? And then you can get a little bit bigger picture. Like if you look at the stories of Noah and combine them with the stories of Atrahasis and Sesudro, you get a much bigger picture, much better understanding of what's going on than just looking at one story and saying, oh, the other ones are evil or pointless, right? I think it's pretty fascinating stuff, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And if you liked what we had to say, if you enjoyed it at all, please give us a like. It really helps the channel grow. And subscribe. Check out our website. We have some amazing herbal products that we craft all in-house. We farm. We have our own apothecary. We have our own tea company. And it definitely will help your ascension, help your growth. We only use the highest quality ingredients, highest quality products. We, meditate and say beautiful things to our, teas and our plants and everything that we're doing. We're trying to create the best of the best for you guys to feel and be the best of the best. Check all that out on eternalbloom.net and hope you have a great day. Thank you very much for being here. Remember, you're loved, you are wonderful, and you have a lot more beauty and power inside you than you could ever imagine, just waiting to come out. The Logos is in all of us. The prophets are here and now. They are us. We are sons of the archons and aeons. We are daughters of the archons and aeons. Sophia made us all. And we are all capable of the path of Sabaoth, right? There's Yaldabaoth, the deceiver being, and there's the Sabaoth. We are all capable of being this Sabaoth, which potentially is that Logos. And Othur and these beings potentially are these harmonious Logos teachers. Christos is plural. The anointed ones is a collective council. It's not just one person. It's not just one time frame back in, 2,000 years ago. It's now. Time is irrelevant. There is no time. There's just perception of the time. If we perceive the Logos now, we can have the harmony in the Logos now and find the Gnosis now. We can use these as a roadmap. We can use all of this information combined together to help unlock these mysteries within inside of us that have been waiting to come out. I think what better time than currently to experience this harmony and be the midwives and doulas of the birth of a new, better world. We all want it. And I want it for everyone. And we're going to talk and get into it a lot. I have a lot of fun stories of different past lives and, remembering a lot of these weird stories that are spoken about in these sacred texts. Before I even got into this, that's why I started researching so much into this, is to make sense of my own. I thought they were dreams. Some of them are. And I've started breaking down the interpretation and how to know what's a dream, what's a vision, what's a journey, what's a past timeline, what's a present timeline. There's no real, separation, but in a material sense, there's certain things that are yet to happen and that we still can have understanding of, and certain things that have happened already that have shaped our DNA now that we can go forward and do better with. It's all just a roadmap in being our fulfilled self, finding that pleroma, if you will. Thank you guys very much. I could just keep going on for a while, but I know a lot of people like, 15-ish minute videos. But yeah, thanks guys. Y'all are amazing. Much love. Take care. Bye.